And that leads us really nicely on, because we touched on it earlier about how we are machines who are designed to pass on our code.
Yeah.
So really, are we just a slave to our hormones? You said yourself about motherhood that you don't know how you're going to behave.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the really scary thing about it. I don't know if slave is the right word, but I would say that we are definitely, we are determined, and luckily, we can change our environments. Like I can, I have some decision about who I spend time with. Other environments and influences have on me, but in some sense, I have no control over that, because that's a process that's going to happen, and I'm going to be beholden to my hormones. I mean, you even find this in day-to-day life, that you can feel anxious or depressed, and you don't know how to hack yourself. You don't actually know how to change how you feel. And there's a lot of really great stuff about this. There's a really good book out by Randy Nesse called Good Reasons for Bad Feelings. And he talks about mental health and mental illness from this Darwinian and evolutionary perspective. And I just think it's incredibly important to think about yourself in this way. If you think about yourself as a machine that's designed to perpetuate your code, or that's designed to perpetuate your code not just through direct reproduction, but also potentially for caring for family, caring for friends, building a good reputation, all these kinds of things, then you will have a much better understanding of why you feel bad, why you feel good, what's working for you, and what isn't. And I think a Darwinian perspective does have an incredible promise for improving individual lives if we understand it well enough.
Well, one of the interesting tidbits of information you mentioned in the book is that the strongest predictor of an argument between in a relationship is blood sugar levels.
That's right. Yeah.
So people are essentially arguing because they haven't eaten, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. The low blood sugar is so this is an interesting feature of punishment. So as I said, if you want to get somebody, if you want Francis to stop frowning, if you want Francis to stop frowning.
Yes, I do. You've
right?
got my full undivided attention.
You could put a shock collar on him, and you could shock him every time he frowns.
Anton, can we get one of those for next time? Let's get one for tomorrow, mate.
That actually gives you a really quick, easy way of doing it.
Yeah.
If you want him to stop doing it.
I'm fine there. That's fine, Dan. I'm sold.
I don't need to go on. But another way to get somebody to do something you want is to shape their behavior otherwise.
Right.
So if you want to get a dog to sit, first you reward them for looking at you, then you reward them for their bottom moving slightly towards the ground, and then that's an iterative process. That's actually much more complicated than just punishing somebody is. So what you see in non-human animals is that punishment is often the first course of action. So if you feel bad, there's some chance that somebody around you made that happen. Right? And so you automatically punish them. You see this in non-human animals. So there's this kind of sadistic experiment they did where they put two rats in a cage, one's tied up, one's not, and they electrified the floor. And what happens when you electrify the floor? The one rat attacks the other rat.
The free rat attacks the tied up rat.
Yes, that's right. The free rat attacks the tied up rat just in case it's the tied up rat's fault, right? And you see this, you think, oh, we're smarter than rats. No, we're not smarter than rats, because if I'm hungry, I'm going to be bitchy to whoever's around, because it might be their fault that I haven't been fed.
Yeah. Well, we're taking you out for lunch after this, so it's all good.
You're going to feed me.
It's all good. We're definitely going to feed you.
So this is one thing that happens, and you also see this it's very funny. There's a kind of meta punishment that happens. So this guy that I was friends with, we were out to dinner, and then his wife calls him up, and she said, "Where are the towels?" And he said, I put them in the dryer. And she hangs up really abruptly. So it was funny because she wanted him to have done something wrong. She wanted him to have left them out wet so that she could yell at him. And then when she couldn't yell at him, she was upset. So we also get reinforced for engaging in punishment, and we can actually punish people for not doing something that would let us punish them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's this stuff these cycles that happen. And I think that understanding your impetus to punish, especially when you're hungry. So one thing that there was a weird explosion on Twitter recently about was fasting. I think fasting is really good. I think it's really good for health. And I do a week-long fast or a 10-day fast twice a year. I think it's really good for you. There were lots of people speculating that I have an eating disorder. I love food just fine. But you're not starving if you have food, you have food on you, right? So what happens is you definitely don't want to be around your romantic partner the first 2 days, potentially. You can be, but you have to just decide that you're not going to talk to each other very much. because you will be incredibly difficult to be around. You will be very, very irritable. And part of that irritability is to punish kind of whoever's around, no matter whether they've done anything wrong or not.
And is part of that, like, let's say in a woman's case, is it like, well, this guy hasn't brought home a hunk of meat recently? Is that it?
Well, when we're being really like crude, whatever Clan of the Bear, whatever that stupid movie is. When Jeffrey and I do joke about that. He's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't bring you a kill." like I'm hungry. So this is an interesting thing about punishment. But another interesting thing about punishment and women is that women really want men to do stuff for them because they want to, right? So I have an interesting story about this. I had a boyfriend who, lovely guy actually, but on my first ever birthday, he came from a family where they didn't exchange cards, they didn't exchange gifts. So for my first birthday that we were together, he bought me a Kindle book and no card. And I tore into him. I didn't want to. It was like I just couldn't help it. Like I was really, I'm very punitive by nature.
That's the Latin American side.
Jeffrey, you have sincere condolences, mate.
I'm very punitive by nature. This is partly like me trying to control it. So I realized what I had done. I felt bad about it, but he got me that year, he bought me a card like the next day. And then the next year, it was my birthday again. And like I had almost completely forgotten about the total like shit show, the total shit fit I had thrown the year before. And then I found out he bought me like a very nice set of earrings and a necklace. And he got me a card. And I was very pleased. But then I realized he told me that he had gone to the jewelry shop 3 separate times, that he'd spent I don't know how long picking out a card for me, and that he was incredibly anxious giving me the gift. Picking out my gift and picking out my card had brought him no pleasure because he was doing those things to avoid my punishment. He wasn't doing those things because I had been so delighted when he had given me a card or that I had shaped his behavior in any way. And you see this with dogs and other animals too. If you punish them for not doing a behavior, like if you punish a dog for not coming quickly enough, they will come fairly quickly, but you'll see the ambivalence about what they're going to do because they're approaching the person who punished them. Whereas if you give them a treat every time they come quickly, they'll bound over. There's no ambivalence about it at all. And the same thing happens in human relationships, where if you get what you want through punishment, if I don't want my partner to be on his phone when he's at dinner with me, and I punish him for doing that, I don't care why he's not on his phone. I just care that he's not on his phone, right? But if I want somebody to give me a gift because they love me, then if you punish them for not giving you a gift, you're going to get Stockholm syndrome. You're not going to get, which is a certain kind of love, right? But you're not going to get the kind of motivation that you want.